It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
All right, SKOR North Twins Show. No, Mackie. You still on? Speaking of off days for the Twins, another off day. No, he isn't technically off. I had a bunch of off days last week, so I can't talk. I have no room to stand on here. I'm well aware of that.
Stick with
but
it.
Mackie on assignment.
Stick by your guns. Rip him. He's not here.
No, I'm not going to rip him. I'm not going to rip him. I mean, we got a little inside baseball behind the scenes here at SKOR North.
Yeah.
So Mackie and Ross are at a convention in D.C. Mm-hmm. AJ has one working arm. Mm-hmm. It's me and you, basically. Just carrying the load. We're at 120 pitches. We're powering through, baby. This is not. There's no 5 and fly here with Declan and Judd. We are going full strength.
You should have seen my day Wednesday, Dex. So what? 4 or 5 shows and things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get done with that. Right to the Judd Zolgad Substack.
Oh yeah.
Write something up on the old Substack. Free for now, by the way, if you'd like to check it out. And then I get out and mow the lawn, do the dishes, take the dog for a walk.
Look at you.
As I told Dawn, it never stops.
No.
Like I am always going. I am a modern day male to follow.
And even though I've only been married for like 5-6 weeks, and anytime you brag about that, it still doesn't. It never really works out well, does it?
Eventually, yeah, because they get offended because the wife thinks that you're taking a shot at her work ethic.
Right.
Well, it's like, well, I work hard too, and it's like I know you work hard, but look at what I'm doing. It never stops.
Oh my God.
Like you're gonna go rest.
Luckily, you eventually do all those chores. You have that TV, and I highly recommend for those listeners who are also doing those chores, you can get a Roku TV right now. You can register to win one right now by going to the SKOR North app, the Listener Rewards tab. A great little spot there. You can check out everything else, but Roku TV, easy to use. I've had Roku TVs in my house forever. Some of the best and easiest TVs to use. So go to the SKOR North app, go to Listener Rewards for your chance to win a Roku TV. All right, Judd. I have a Bullpen Trust Tree. I have a 3.0. This is the 3rd edition of the Bullpen Trust Tree. I went back and listened to the 2.0. I did not go back and listen to the 1.0.
That's fine.
But there are some names here.
Yeah, It changed, right?
Yes.
Like there have probably been some, I don't want to say completely drastic, but definite changes. So we actually did the 2.0 Trust Tree without Phil as well, I believe.
No,
Phil was out for one of those.
I think so. The 2.0, we were all three together. The 1.0, I think Phil was out for.
All right.
This is but you are correct that this is the second one that he has not been a part of.
Yeah.
But 3.0. So we've had some movement and some shaking. Part of me kind of wants to actually. In the past, I've just gone from the top to the bottom. Should I build some suspense here and go from the bottom to the top instead?
Sure, yeah.
Is that probably a good idea here?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do it.
All right, so right now there's 8 guys obviously on this list. This is the 3.0 Bullpen Trust Tree ranking. So we'll start from the bottom, we'll work our way up. All right, and as of now, this guy is still part of the bullpen, so I'm including him. So number 8, the last guy, the last option right now in this Bullpen Trust Tree, Ronnie Henriquez. Okay, so he's number 8. He's probably going to be shipped out by the time first pitch starts tomorrow, or by the time, things get back in order. He pitched on back-to-back days. He was just the last guy in that pen. He is the last option. He's probably going to be back with the AAA team here shortly, but right now he is number 8, the last guy in my Bullpen Trust.
Makes sense. All right.
Number 7, Steven Okert. Come on down.
Oh, boy.
Steven Okert, who has fallen all the way from 4th in my 2.0.
Wow.
He was number 4. Steven Okert was having a solid year. He was, in my opinion, their best option for lefties at the time of the 2.0 list, which was about 8 weeks ago, too. I think it was like mid to late June I did the 2.0. So Steven Okert has fallen from grace here. He has gone from the best lefty option to a guy who, I mean, if he continues down this path, is he even on the playoff roster? This wasn't just one bad outing on Tuesday, Judd. This has been a month plus of very poor outings here.
Right.
So he has fallen all the way to 7th in my Bullpen Trust Tree.
And he would be 8 if there was not a Slappy there who was probably going to be sent down.
Probably. You are correct.
Okay.
Number 6, Trevor Richards. So the bullpen arm acquired at the deadline. The only piece added to this team at the trade deadline, Trevor Richards, who has definitely walked the plank, hasn't looked the part. He's hitting a lot of batters. He got off to a nice start in Toronto. He's got some a nice change up there, but he hasn't been able to really find it here. So right now he is 6th in my bullpen trust tree. This is a very low leverage guy. I do not want to see this guy, at least yet. Maybe he changed things. All right, we got 5 weeks to turn things around.
I don't know. Yep.
But if I was in a playoff game, this guy better be pitching in basically one scenario. You're up 10-1 or you're down 10-1. Any leverage, medium to high situation, there's no reason for him necessarily to be out there. And it's a big black eye too, obviously, on the front office for not addressing it and not fixing this team at the deadline.
Unpitchable in an important game is basically what you're saying.
Yes. That is true. Number 5 on this list, Caleb Thielbar, who has shot kind of back up here a little bit. So Thielbar was number 7 on my list on the 2.0. I believe he was probably 4 or 5 on the initial list too. Now, he's at a roller coaster season. He got off to a very poor start, but he's kind of redefined some things. I think he got also his confidence back. He was shaken. I mean, I thought the guy was going to be off the roster. When you get to a certain age, too, he can recognize that maybe I just don't have it anymore. And Trevor Plouffe talks a lot about confidence on the broadcast. He's talked about that with us. I just thought that was a guy whose confidence was also completely shaken because he realized he can't get guys out anymore. But he's been a lot better. I would have preferred him in the 8th inning over Steven Okert on Tuesday.
Totally with you on this.
So he's the best lefty option now out in this bullpen. He went from the best option to start the year to maybe the last option of a lefty. And now, once again, he is the best lefty option. So he's number 5 on my list.
Yeah, and he has, the fact that they didn't pitch him on Tuesday in a situation where clearly, despite the fact I think it was flawed, we're trying to get some lefty on lefty matchups, really surprised me because he does, the last 4 or 5 times I've seen him pitch, he does look like he's got, for lack of a better term, the swagger back.
Mm-hmm.
Okert just looks like a complete mess. And, Okert and Trevor Richards as well, Dex, are self-inflicted problems.
Yes, they are.
They're self-inflicted. You went out and got them, and in Richards' case, I almost feel bad for the guy. I mean, he's your one acquisition at the deadline with, by the way, a good team.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the players swept Texas. If you just went by how they played, right? Not their decisions, but just how they played. I feel like the players swept Texas and pretty much won 2 of 3 against the Padres, and the people above them sort of screwed them.
Yeah.
Because Tuesday night, they did run the bases like dummies, but for the most part, the players played really well. The Twins showed themselves, minus Correa, minus Buxton. They deserved more, and they sort of didn't get the support.
All right, now we're entering the top 4 of this list, and these are all guys I would be okay with seeing in high leverage situations. So number 4 on this list, Cole Sands. Come on down, Cole Sands. So Cole Sands was on my 2.0. I don't believe he was on my initial list because I don't remember if he started the year with the team. I'm blanking on that. If he did make the opening day roster, I had him definitely near the bottom of a list. But he's having a great year. He's having a very solid year. He's probably my medium leverage guy. I don't want him in the highest of leverage of situations.
Right.
He's been solid, but he's having a great season.
Yep.
And he deserves a look. I wouldn't be sweating if Cole Sands had to come in to a medium to high leverage situation. So he deserves a spot. He's the 4th guy on my trust tree. So Cole Sands, you're also on this list. Having a great year.
Yeah, and he's sort of picked up, I think, a little bit of the slack where Brock Stewart being hurt, right? Brock Stewart we thought was going to be a key guy or an important guy. And he has basically had, because of the shoulder problems, a lost year. So Cole Sands to me has sort of backfilled that spot. He's not, I don't think he's as good as Brock Stewart is at his best, but he certainly has done a nice enough job.
Yeah, he's got great control. He makes pattern. He has a really good chase percentage too, and he's in the 91st percentile in terms of chase percentage. He's got that cutter that he's been throwing a lot this year. That's been a big pitch for him. Same with the splitter. He typically throws the cutter to right-handers and the splitters to left-handers. So both those pitches, if he can execute them, they work pretty well. All right, top three, which probably maybe a little bit of a surprise at 1, but top 3, Jorge Alcala. He's number 3. I still like Alcala a lot. I like his stuff. They have believed in him through thick and thin. He has been on injured lists for the majority of the last few years. He was even at times earlier this year kind of the sacrificial lamb in games where he's throwing 35 pitches because he's going to be optioned down afterwards. And I know there was some confusion on that, but I kind of understood that method. Especially, they did the same thing with Enriquez at the time, where if we know we're going to option a guy,
he's perfect.
Pitch him. Let's pitch him to death. Now his stuff has finally graduated to the point where he is a high leverage arm. Yes, Sunday did not go well, but his stuff is still very, very good. I like it in the playoff game. Jorge Alcala, number 3 on this list, my bullpen trust tree.
Very fair. I think I know who 2 is.
Number 2, Johan Duran.
Yep.
Duran is still great. He's the closer. I still believe there's going to be more times than not in the 9th inning of a playoff game that Duran gets that inning. That doesn't mean that he's not the best reliever on this team. I just think he is more suited for that role. He's probably going to have times where he has to get 4 or 5 outs, but Griffin Jax is the best reliever in this Twins bullpen right now. He is. He's their fireman. He is the guy that they call upon when they need outs the most in high leverage situations. It does not mean that Duran isn't worthy of pitching in high leverage spots either, but I have Griffin Jax number 1 and Duran 2. So 1 through 8, Griffin Jax 1, Johan Duran 2, Jorge Alcala 3, Cole Sands 4, Caleb Thielbar 5, Trevor Richards 6, Stephen Okert 7, Ronnie Henriquez number 8. That is your bullpen trust tree 3.0.
I can't disagree. And look, I mean, Jax and Duran being 1, 2, or if it's Duran 1, they're both hugely important. So like, I don't feel like, I feel like Jax has been the best. I feel like Duran got off to a rough start because he was had the oblique coming out of spring training. He came back. He has not been exactly the same. He's still pretty damn good. But in a playoff game, you in some way, shape, or form are going to need both of them. So like, I don't think whatever ranking of 1, 2 that you give them is a big deal because they're both equally as important. But Jax has been a revelation. I mean, he has been so good. And, we talked about this with Patrick on Royce Unchained. I know that Rocco said that he was not going to send him back out there after throwing 10 pitches in the 7th on Tuesday against the Padres. And so they pitched Okert, and that was a disaster. But in a playoff game, I would hope to God that you would put Jax back. Like if Bailey, if you deem after 83 pitches and a Machado home run, right, that Ober has to come out and you pitch Jax and he then blows through things and goes 1, 2, 3, 10 pitches in a playoff game, I would hope that you would be smart enough not to say, well, let's bring in a reliever we don't trust as much because Griffin Jax's arm, this or that. So if they had gone, I think if they had gone Jax 7 and 8, assuming Jax didn't struggle, and with the way he's going of late, Declan, I don't think he does on Tuesday, and Duran 9, I think they win.
Yeah.
I think they win the game. And I think they
too.
And they take 2 of 3, and they did, that's a nice game. That would have been a really nice win. And I think part of the frustration about that loss in particular was the fact that they did come back in the top of the 8th, got 2 runs. So like they puked the lead up and then came right back, and it's like, that's pretty impressive. Like that's really good. And then they lost. I got a question for you about the bullpen and the playoffs. But before we get to that, I want to talk about my very good friends right down the street from me here in SLP, Park Tavern, located off of Highway 7 and Louisiana Avenue South. And I'm going to tell you right now, Park Tavern has a little bit of everything. They've got bowling for the kids. They've got a couple of bars, party rooms. If you want to watch a game, football season, college, pro.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to watch a game, guess what? Park Tavern, they are the place to watch that game. And you might even see the sports dad sitting at the corner of the bar. And I know that Declan Goff, who's in Woodbury, he likes the Park Tavern here at SLP so much that he often makes trips to have a few beers.
I do. I mean, a lot of high leverage arms, a lot of high leverage televisions there at Park Tavern. Okay,
And
to your
taps.
point, right?
High leverage taps as well.
College football season starts next weekend? NFL. We got baseball playoffs in October. This is Judd.
Yep.
You should do a snake draft maybe of like best TV times of the world. It starts next week and runs through basically Halloween. I think September through October. Then you got hockey, NBA that also start like that is the best sitting on your keister and watching TV season there is. On a Roku TV.
This sounds like a great time then to have a party at Park Tavern.
Park Tavern.
I'm talking 25, 30 folks. Cheryl and Phil there do a great job. Give them a call, 952-929-6810. Or if you are more hip, you can just go to parktavern.net and book the party. Easy to use website, Park Tavern, the official sports bar of the Sports Dad. Here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume that sanity prevails, and let's assume Paddock comes back and Varland is again for the second consecutive year in the playoffs put into the bullpen. How much does your bullpen trust tree overall ranking change, and where do you slot those two guys in as relievers in the playoffs?
So I think in terms of stuff, I probably still have Paddock and Varland, assuming health is all good with both of them.
Sure.
I probably still have them behind Sands. Like I don't have them above Sands yet. Okay. I think one of those two is probably a bulk guy or a guy that like Sim. If Sim starts game 3, I don't think Sim's going to get more than 2 times through the order, if not just a time and a half through the order. Yep. So can Paddock and Varland be one of those swing guys that they can use in a situation where they can get some outs? And I wouldn't envision them being high leverage guys, but can I see them starting a 5th or a 6th inning when they want to turn to the bullpen? Maybe being basically, let's say the Twins are up 5-2 going into the 6th. And they want to now go to the bullpen.
Start the bridge.
Start the bridge. Gotcha. Those two guys are probably one of the 2 guys they would start with. That's my guess as of now. And I would assume that both those guys, would probably be, and again, remember for a wild card series and even an ALDS, you're not going to have 5 starting pitchers necessarily on your roster. Right. You're going to have probably 3, so that puts the Paddocks and the Varlands and the Festas and the Zebbies kind of also into the equation of how many guys they want to keep. But I do think one of those 2 in Paddock and Varland are definitely on the playoff roster.
So first round and best of 3. So to your point, you do not need 5 starters. Best of 3, first round. Give me your bullpen projection with Festa and Zebby being in the bullpen as guys that can come, like if Sim struggles, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, we need a bulk guy of some sort. And bulk in the playoffs is not, it's probably a couple of innings coming to pitch. Give me your bullpen construction with Festa, Zebby, Paddock, Varland available. How many of them do you put on that first round roster? If that,
I think only 2 of the 4 get there, and actually, I'm more interested in David Festa as one of those locks simply because his first time through orders is incredibly effective.
Okay.
Actually, I like Festa there a lot. Now, I think it's easier this time of year to make that transition to the bullpen, but as of now, like David Festa's being a starter, so how do they? It's easier to bridge that gap than going the other way around, but I actually like Festa a lot more. I don't think Zebby is a part of that equation.
Okay, here's crazy.
I don't know. I don't think he is.
I got a crazy question for you off of what you just said about Festa. How can I phrase this? In game 3, so you've gotten, Pablo started a game.
Ober
started a game, and you split the first 2 games. You're into game 3. Do you consider, because now, as you like to say, all hands on deck game, like there's no, like you're done if you lose. Do you consider, because of what you just told me, starting Festa to take him 1 time through and then putting Sim in after that, something like that?
I would do the opposite. I would have Sim start and I would go to Festa if I want to. Now again, all hands on deck. Depending on the situation, I don't even know if Fest is part of that. Depending on what the Jax, Duran, Alcala, Sands did in games 1 and 2.
Yep.
But assuming maybe like Jax and Duran each threw 20 plus pitches over games 1 and 2, and yeah, like you're gonna have to rely on some other people to obviously get those out. So I'd still start Sim, and then I would go to Festa, just because I think that logic would still kind of apply where they haven't seen Festa yet, and it might make life a little bit easier for him. So I'd still start Sim, and I think Sim deserves it. He is now, though, past the inning threshold of his career. So,
I got to start to look this up. A lot of guys are pushing that right now.
Yeah.
Bailey, I think, is past his, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a good question, because that's the one thing that I do believe could become a problem. Like, guys do tire out. Like, and the playoffs are a different animal completely. So that's an interesting discussion as far as like how you carefully manage that. And unfortunately for the Twins, the race is too tight for them to like try and lay off guys. I think you could go to you could try to go to a 6-man, but the problem with that is I don't think the Twins have any interest in doing that. So it's probably a non-starter as far as the discussion goes.
Yeah, the crazy part here is, so last year the Twins were able to clinch because the division was so bad, and they had 10 days between the end of the season.
Yep.
And I will say, it's still early to say this, but like Boston is on the outside looking in, they're 3.5, but the gap after that to Tampa Bay is 6.5. Mm-hmm. So like if the Twins can somehow be in a similar spot where maybe they lock up a playoff spot with a week to go in the regular season. Yeah, I mean, rest everyone. Like, you can't throw out your
Cleveland.
Well, if you can catch Cleveland, this is a different story. Yes, I mean,
yeah, like that's the one thing because then you're at home.
Yep.
The idea of where they would currently start the playoffs does not personally appeal to me. The Yankees or Orioles, correct?
Yeah. Right now, they're technically, I mean, they're tied, but they'd have the 5th seed because they have the advantage over KC. So they would play the 4. So they'd play Baltimore if the season started, a playoff started today.
But if you could catch Cleveland, past Cleveland, and let's say the division standings at the end of the season are Minnesota, Cleveland, Kansas City, now you got a home playoff series, which as we saw against Toronto, was a big advantage. I just don't know that there's going to be a time to back off, and I don't think they have any interest in going to a 6-man. And so this is going to be a very, very interesting game of how you try to, beyond Pablo, manage the starters' innings as we get towards the end here.
Now, obviously, if you win the division, there's still a good chance you can forego the wild card round and get one of the 2 byes. I mean, Cleveland has the best record, is a half game out of the best record.
Great
so
point.
I mean, there's a chance there too where if they catch Cleveland, they could have the 2 seed, maybe even the 1 seed.
Yeah.
And then you got what and wild card series it's Tuesday through Thursday. I believe it's October 1st through the 3rd. So by the time the season ends on Sunday, best case, you're probably playing the ALDS on a Friday. So you get about 5-6 days rest, 7 days rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you start at home then.
And you start at home, you sleep in your own bed.
Start at home and get rest. This is where this to me, just to be clear, is way more fun than last year.
And last series of the year for the Twins, hosting Baltimore at Target Field. I mean, both those teams, all 3 of those teams are going to be going at it, man. That's going to be a fun weekend to close the year.
And that's why it's good that Declan Goff is our resident Twins beat podcaster, because he will be all over it, because I'm going to guess that the last day of the season's a Sunday and that I'll be at a Vikings game. So, but this is going to be great. And and the fact that the Royals have popped up with the Guardians too, this division is pretty damn good now. Like the White Sox are 44 games back or something. They're awful. It's a joke. Detroit's not as good as I thought, but they are still young. And I could see them popping up, but you've got 3 really solid teams now, which is great.
I would love to sleep in my own bed too and not have to travel. Let's just say old Dex Tweets was looking at possible hotel options in Baltimore and New York earlier this week too.
Oh, Baltimore! I love both of those towns. Baltimore, a great seafood town, and I think there's a Marriott. If it's still a property for them, basically across the street from Camden. And if you've not been to Camden,
It's
it is a
top 5
marvelous
on my list
ballpark.
to see. I haven't seen
I
it.
love that ballpark. I don't
Yeah.
like what they did in left field. It looks atrocious, I think, but the ballpark is great. So
Yes.
I love it.
All right, hit the like button, subscribe button. This is SKOR North Twin Show. We'll have an extra innings episode for sure on Sunday to wrap things up against the Cardinals. We'll be there on Sunday for sure. Going to be a great weekend. Going to be a great week of ball here. I mean, the Twins will be home for basically the next 10 days starting today. They're basically at home. So all good things to have. Hit the like button, subscribe button. This is the SKOR North Twin Show. Appreciate you guys. We'll be talking at you soon.